Mike, I really enjoy reading about FourBlock, and I want to ask you first about your mission and also how things have changed the last year.
Sure. Well, our mission is to equip veterans and military spouses to successfully transition to meaningful civilian careers. So that's something that we've updated actually this past year with military spouses. We've been at it now for, I can't believe it, but 10 years. So started this as I transitioned out. It was just a program that I was doing just because I wanted to help. And then eventually it kind of got to the point where it became an actual organization. Been doing it now for 10 years or so. And with COVID, I mean, everything has changed, right? The heart and soul of our program is really relationship building. And that means, we were bringing together veterans and employers so that they can meet with one another, begin to build a relationship, understand each other a little bit better. We were trying to really help bridge that military civilian divide. And it obviously became a lot more difficult to do that when you can't meet in person. So we made the decision that first week in March last year to go virtual. People still didn't know, no one really knew what was going on at that time. And we just knew, we needed to give our students and our employers a little consistency here. So we just made the decision, let's go virtual through March, and then make the decision at the end of March. So since then, everything's been virtual. Everything has been on Zoom or Skype or whatever. And we've actually found that there's some goodness in that. So we weren't necessarily confined to a geographic area. We had veterans from around the world really access the internet and be able to take a program in a location that they were thinking about moving to when they got off active duty. So we had someone from Korea, we had someone from Australia, someone from Ukraine, we had a military spouse from Italy, and they were calling in and participating in the program. So we found that there is some goodness in doing it virtually.
And Max and Mike, you're both Marines, and I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you for your service right up front. Max, I imagine the transition and getting a job during the pandemic had to be difficult. Walk me through the transition for you.
Yeah, so pretty challenging, unique, I would say too. Like just what an interesting experience. So I was in California. I went out for the weekend to visit my folks, and I actually got sick with COVID. So I ended up getting stuck in California for 2 months with about a weekend's worth of close. And at this point, FourBlock had just shifted entirely virtual. So that was huge. So I was able to continue up with that, but ended up just connecting with some folks at Deloitte through FourBlock and outside networking. And then was just given the opportunity to interview come in June, and then got offered and started up later that month. So kind of a whirlwind. It sort of happened kind of quickly, but it was entirely virtual. So the whole interview process was all via Zoom, basically. And
that must have been unique.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, to this point, I've been with Deloitte since June, and I have yet to meet in person any one of my colleagues. Like wow. I have not had any physical interaction with colleagues, which is unique because Deloitte is known for their culture and is such a big calling card for what they do, and just to not experience that has been a pretty big challenge in itself, but a unique one and a cool one to tackle.
And it also strikes me that the networking aspect of being in a building. I mean, I've been remote for 11 months now, and certainly miss that camaraderie in the newsroom. And I'd imagine it's the same thing at a firm like Deloitte. But I would think, looking at your background, you were a sergeant in the Marines, you were a leader. You must have had that self-starting behaviors that are helping you and helping Deloitte fill the role that you do there.
Yeah. Definitely credit to the Marine Corps for creating some of that drive and motivation, and not just being okay with kind of sitting around and waiting for things to come to you. I did think it was unique because I think, to your point, I'm a social creature. So any chance I can get to go grab a coffee with someone or buy them a coffee, wrap it up with them, I've done, and that was a big thing with trying to do that try to do the transfer, basically the segue from military to school to Deloitte, and just not being able to do that, kind of feeling weird about putting time on people's calendars and hanging out with them via Zoom. It's always felt strange with me at the start, but it normalized. You kind of got to push through that wall, which is what I was doing. And you network. You either network or you stay on the bench at Deloitte. So yeah, had to do it, and here we are.
Yeah, pick up the phone, I guess.
Yeah,
Mike,
exactly.
what jobs are in demand right now? What are vets finding jobs in?
Well, it's really whatever. I mean, so with our program, we don't focus on a particular career path or an industry. Our focus is on just helping veterans figure out what it is that they want to do and supporting them in getting there. So we're not a headhunting firm. We don't get paid to buy placements. We don't focus on a specific industry. So it really runs the gamut. I mean, we get folks who come in here and they want to be museum curators and people who want to work on Wall Street, and we're not here to judge. We're here to help you figure it out. I mean, they're getting jobs everywhere. I mean, there's no one particular, industry that's hiring more veterans than another. You've got some big companies out there, like Amazon, they're just hiring a lot, but there's a lot of firms that are hiring, believe it or not. So, you just got to network. You figure out what it is that you want to do. And, the opportunities are there. You just got to take it.
Now, what I find unique about FourBlock is you not only work with veterans to get them career ready, but you also have outreach to employers. So tell me, from the employer perspective, what do you tell them? How do you sell them? And what are the benefits that you tell them to have veterans on their team, especially right now?
Sure. So there's really two reasons why a company would partner with us. The first is it's a talent pipeline. And for a number of those companies, we don't need to convince them to hire veterans. They already get it. They understand it. Maybe 10 years ago, you really had to make an argument for it, but people understand it now. And now they're just looking for a solid pipeline of folks that they could hire. So that's a big piece. And another piece too is something that we didn't really set out to do, is providing employers with an opportunity or a platform to be able to give back to the community in a meaningful way. So some companies will come to us and say, we already do a really good job of hiring veterans, and frankly, we don't care if we hire any of your guys. What we're looking to do is engage our employees in a very meaningful relationship-based way in the community through mentorship, through teaching, through coaching. There's a buzzword out there right now called skills-based volunteering. And that's why they want to engage with this, is because their employees find it very meaningful, and it gives them meaning and purpose. And it also helps develop some of their junior leaders into more, leadership roles. If we do have to make an argument, particularly now with the world of COVID, we kind of hit upon it a little bit earlier. Veterans bring initiative.
Right.
There's a lot of trust going on right now with folks working from home. And a lot of veterans, as Max noted, they're not just going to sit around and wait to be told what to do. They're going to kind of figure out what needs to get done and get it done. So there's a lot of trust in that regard, and also resiliency. Folks coming out of the military, they know what it means to suffer a bit. They've worked in austere environments. They understand how to keep their head on a swivel and how to adapt. And those two combinations of things make veterans very valuable in today's workforce.
Absolutely. And Max, I want to ask you about the hiring process. When you were going through that, what did employers do well? And specifically Deloitte, I guess, in your case, and I'm sure you had other interviews, but generally from your experience, what are they doing well in the hiring process? And what are they missing the mark on? What do they need to do better?
Yeah, so I think what went really well for me was, in my experience, it was on time. I mean, a big one I think the veterans can kind of share is a big sentiment is sort of the delays, the waiting, the sort of lack of punctuality. I think with some interviews, even if it's only like 5 to 10 minutes, it is one of those things that kind of drives me up a wall. Everything was right on time. So when you were scheduled for a 6:30 Eastern interview, It was starting at 6:30. There was no delay there, and I think another great thing there was really just the connection. I mean, I interviewed at such a new point in COVID when Zoom was really taking off, and that Zoom fatigue wasn't a thing. That it was a unique and sort of fun experience that you could kind of share with the interviewer, as far as what was going on with you, what was going on with them, sort of the new and unique experience. I think if you had hit me with Zoom interviews sort of 6 months into this, like in October or November, I don't know if it would have been such a cool and unique experience, but they did it really well. Everybody was super prepared, and you could share information via the interview, via the chat room, that you were trying to get across. I think something that kind of missed the mark is, I mean, it's just a human interaction, and there's no replacing that one. There's just there's something to be said for somebody walking into a room and shaking hands with people in the room, or being able to observe somebody and what kind of socks they're wearing, as silly as that detail is, but really just like being in the room with somebody and establishing a human connection. Like I said earlier, I am a human create, like I drive off human interaction. So being in the room with people and being able to read emotions and sort of body language and all of that, I think is something that's very challenging to replicate. But everybody's doing the best they can with the tools that we've got right now, and I think Deloitte did a great job with it.
Yeah, and I think also in an interview, I always felt anyway, applications on a piece of paper, it's so difficult to get your foot in the door these days just to get that meeting. And now that you can have the meeting, it's certainly challenging because you're not sharing that that relationship, that interpersonal connection that you talk about. Mike, I saw that the average salary, and I guess this is based on 2019 numbers, is above $92,000. That seems like a lot. That's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, we were very happy when we got that feedback from our alumni after they got their first post-military job. And when we set out to create this organization, we knew that if service members wanted to transition out and become police officers or firemen, or wanted to get into a trade, a lot of those pipelines were already created. And we wanted to support veterans who wanted to get into the Fortune 500 companies, because particularly enlisted service members, because we didn't think that those pipelines were really there. And for those of us who've been on active duty, who've worked with these corporals and sergeants, they're amazing people. They're super smart, and the days, decades ago where, you had a choice between joining the military or going to prison, or you had no other option, so you joined the military. Those days are over. We've got some super smart people who enlist, who enlist in the military, and we wanted to create those pipelines for them to get into these Fortune 500 companies. So, the companies that we work with are the ones who pay good salaries, and they have great jobs. We've been successful in helping to create some of those pipelines. So, at one hand, we were very happy with it, but on the other hand, we're like, well, this is the way it should be. So we were happy with that.
Yeah, that's great. And, Max, Mike, I just want to ask you kind of final thoughts. I mean, where do you go from here now? I mean, obviously, we're probably going to be remote for a while, but are there benefits to that? And what do you hope, I guess, Max, to accomplish in your career in Deloitte and perhaps beyond?
Yeah, I think I'm enjoying the work from home. I'm actually dialed in from California right now. I hopped on a plane over the weekend. So I'm just working, from my buddy's office, and enjoying the sunshine in California, and got out in New York. So I don't mind the work from home. We haven't gotten any guidance at Deloitte as to when sort of in-person activities are going to resume. And yeah, I'll just keep a lookout there, but there's no real guidance at the moment. As far as what I want to get from Deloitte, hard to say. I've never been more of like a 2 years down the road kind of guy. I just kind of take the doors that are presented to me, sort of kick them down, and do the best I can, just with the full understanding that, the work I'm going to do right now and the good effort I'm going to put in right now is going to lead to some more doors that I'm not going to feel too terrible about walking through when I get there. So, short term right now is just really networking within Deloitte and keeping up sort of the job I'm doing within secure supply chain at the moment. So that's the short term goal. I think long term, man, I'd love to stick around at Deloitte for a bit, but who knows what's going to come up. I mean, between FourBlock and Deloitte, I think the foundation's really been set to kind of do whatever I want. And I think the opportunities are definitely going to come. And I haven't really spoken to Mike up until now, but I got to thank you for the help that you guys did in getting me where I'm at. And yeah,
of course,
Mike, this kind of story must make you smile and encourage you to move forward. Where do you go from here with FourBlock?
Well, we want to continue to grow and expand. I think as we were talking a little bit earlier, the virtual environment offers a lot of opportunities for us to be able to support veterans in ways that they haven't been supported before. The story of a soldier from Fort Lewis, who's transitioning out and wants to move back to Charlotte, she or he is able to take that virtual program for Charlotte, so 6 months, 12 months ahead of their transition, they can already be networking and connecting with employers so that it's more of a seamless transition. Just talking to employers in the short term, I don't think we're going to be in person anytime soon. Even when employers start letting their employees back, that doesn't mean they're going to let a cohort of 20, 30, 40 veterans in this coming fall, given everything going on. So we think that, things are probably going to still be virtual here for the foreseeable future. So, how can we do that to, increase enrollment, reach areas of the country and the world that we've never touched before, and then support veterans in being able to connect with locations that they plan on moving to after they transition. So all those things are sort of on our plate right now that we're thinking through.
Mike and Max, it's been an honor to talk to you. Thank you so much for all you've done in your service, and really best of luck with everything.
Thank you, Neil. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Max.
Neil.